Hello everyone, how are we all doing today? Oh goodness, it's finally Friday. I want to do something fancy with this graphic here, but I goofed it. So that's just not gonna happen today. Boop! Yes, thank you. Ah. We'll have to use the fancy graphic next time. How are we all doing today, chat? Gonna get me a drink. I had some of the most bizarre dreams last night, chat. I'll tell you what. It was very strange. What am I drinking? Just a Coke. Nothing super exciting. Coke and water. Alright, so the bracket for today. We got a couple of new faces. Actually, we got two new faces. Game 1 is going to be Pantone versus Gojira. Game 2, we've got Roz versus Falcon. Game 3, we have Turin versus King of the Dead. And Game 4, we have Professor Pone versus Flying Taco. And the Game 1 guys are getting set up. Infinite Wanderer, if a salon desired it, Lizardman would work with anybody. I showed a ladder of 16. Oh no, that image is a little confusing. It's actually a roster of 8. It's just the names go inside the lines for the first one, and then they go on top of them for the rest of them. So it's actually only 8. It looks a little weird. What's a stir pike? It's like a really big fish with sharp teeth. Think of like a what are they called? Barracuda? But a lot bigger. Alright, our first matchup today Whoops, screen blocker. Sotek. Our first matchup today is High Elves versus a Greenskins. Nope, not you. Not you. You. Perfect. So we got a good old grudge match day. Today. The descendants of Grom the Paunch and Eltharion the Grim going toe-to-toe. Once more. Oh, and if you see people mentioning the stir pike a lot around, No. First map is... Yeah, okay. Alright. If you see people mentioning the stir pike, it's because Professor Pone had a really ugly incident with one in the first, I think the first or second episode of the roleplay. All right, we're off. So now I can close that and reopen that. All right, chat, be sure to root for your favorite team, whether it's your favorite player or simply your favorite race. Or maybe you just hate somebody and want them to lose. That's okay, too. I hope you're all having a marvelous Friday. I'm a little disoriented today, but not terribly so. This shirt is a little suspiciously colored. If you don't have enough pixels on your stream like on my second screen, it almost looks like I'm not wearing anything. Volume okay, chat? Shirtless Sotek is something that nobody would want to see. I can assure you, because I don't want to see it. Alright, before I take a bite, let me go over this. I should eat between battles, not during. Alright, so for the High Elves here, led by newcomer Pantone, we've got 4 units of High Elf Spearmen. I believe they're all Spearmen. No sneaky Lothern Seaguard. Then we've got the Keepers of the Flame, which are the self-destructing Phoenix Guard, which is a pretty cool pick. They also have magical damage, which is actually going to be pretty useful against the orcs if there are some savage orcs over there. Then we've got Alariel the Radiant. She's got looks like she does not have all of her items. So what does she have? She has the Shield Stone of Aisha. She's got the Boon of Aisha. And then she's got Earthblood, Arcane Unforging, Tempest. Oh, wait, there it is. The Star of Avalorn. Great. Then they have a Star Dragon that they've brought for the party. And then here in the forest, we've got 2 units of Dragon Princes, one of which is the Fireborn. These guys were a heavy favorite last week. And then we've got the Aurelian Reavers. So the High Elves did win last week, for those of you who weren't able to join us. And they did manage to, there was a lot of Dragon Princes last week. Over here, headed up by Gojira, we've got the Greenskins. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Night Goblins for a front line, 2 of which are regiments of renown. We've got 2 giants. Goodness gracious. And then we've got the king of the goblins himself, the warlord of Carrick 8 Peaks, Skarsnik, leading the troop into battle. And he does have his Prada. We've also got the Broken Tusk Mob, who are Boar Boy Biggins that are very, very good against anti-large targets. We've got a Night Goblin Shaman who's got Night Shroud, Itchy Nuisance, Gorkle Fix-It, and Vindictive Glare, and Sneaky Stab. And he's got every single spell except Curse of the Bad Moon. And he's got the Wand of Jet and his Mushrooms. Then we've got 2 units of Goblin Wolf Archers with Morgrove's Mangy Marauders. We've got the Death Creepers. So 2 very busy armies. Gojiro's got a ton of Regiments of Renown. Not a lot of Orcs. Alright, we're off. So the Giants are not hidden. They are fully visible. Never mind, they are now totally hidden thanks to Trixie Traps. And you know what it looks like Gojira's going to do? It looks like Gojira is going to stack his Trixie Traps to make the Giants invisible. And then when that's about to wear off, I think he's going to pop Night Shroud on them to keep them invisible. So we have 2 units of Giants that are probably going to stay invisible for about a total of, I don't know, probably 40, 50 seconds. So far the Greenskin army is still invisible. Oh, though some goblins do run out and get some early catches here. This is actually not great for the High Elves. All of these High Elf units are being debuffed by the fact that they're fighting in the forest, while these Forest Goblin Spider Riders have Forest Strider. They are immune to the penalties caused by Forest, so they're actually probably going to do really well this fight. Itchy Nuisance does go down, which is going to nerf the Dragon Prince's melee attack into just absolute nothingness. Here, the Dragon is responding, but some Night Goblins have run into the fight to help slow down the Dragon Princes. And the Dragon has spotted the Night Goblin Shaman and is diving down on him. The Dragon is notably debuffed, and the Broken Tusk Mob is running in to save the day. It's going to be hard for that Dragon to hit that Night Goblin Shaman, honestly. This is already turning into a very messy battle in the forest. In the meanwhile, Wa has been popped in the 2 main armies of Goblins and High Elves have met over here. Skarsnik is rallying to the rest of his army over here as the Giant comes pounding into the Dragon Princes who are fighting in the forest here. This is just a nightmare scene for these Elves. These Dragon Princes, this is not an ideal matchup. They need to get out of here. Meanwhile, over here, the Shaman did get absolutely destroyed by the Dragon and Alario combo. Looks like the Greenskins magic is off the table. He is shattered. No more magic for the Goblins. They are down. Skarsnik needs to get his butt over here and get into the rear of these Dragon Princes. If they can get rid of these Dragon Princes, that'll be such a good catch for the Greenskins, which the Giant is doing a very, very good job, along with the Broken Tusk Mob, of just slowly but surely shredding these guys. Oh, really nice Dragon Breath does come down from the Star Dragon into the Broken Tusk Mob, killing a ton of them. Spite of the Bad Moon does go down, though, and a really nice Star of Avalorn from Alario, which is going to boost these Dragon Princes almost up to full health. Looks like it's pretty much capped out their health for the amount of models they have, and the Dragon does swoop down and terrify off the Night Goblins and the Broken Tusk Mob. Let's check over with this infantry battle over here. Things are not looking great for the Goblins. They are completely surrounded by superior infantry, and they are slowly but surely being torn apart. Man, it is dark in this forest here in Ulthuan, as this Giant is continually slamming in on these guys, but the moment these Goblins are gone, that Giant's going to get surrounded by nothing but anti-large infantry and probably torn apart. Over here, Skarsnik is trying to help get rid of the Dragon Princes once and for all. The Night Goblins have rallied along with the Broken Tusk Mob, and they're doing some excellent damage against the Fireborn, and this Giant is just going to town on people. Wolf Riders are riding around, not really caring too much about who they shoot, but they're doing some really nice damage, especially Morgoth's Mangy Marauders, who do have armor-piercing damage with their ranged attacks, and they are slowly but surely dragging down all these Dragon Princes. Gojira is probably going to want to make sure he keeps them separate so the next Star of Avalorn isn't quite so effective. So far, though, the balance of power has swung a little bit into the Goblins' favor. They have managed to win this initial fight against the Dragon Princes, but they haven't managed to get them off the table. So currently, they are still fighting hard there. Over here, this Giant is totally surrounded, and his leadership is starting to noticeably dip because of it. The Unbreakable Night Goblins are almost dead. They have 24 models left, but very, very little health. The Giant is continuing to just absolutely slam on people. Probably the best target for him at this point would be the dragon, because he would actually do some really good damage to it if he could land hits. The Night Goblins, though, are continuing to rally and come running back in here, trying to give the Giant some relief, and at the very least keep his leadership at a respectable value. Here, the Broken Tusk mob and some more Night Goblins have rallied nearby, but the Elves are immediately responding with trying to drop a wall, but the Broken Tusk mob does run in before the Elves have a chance to really brace for battle, and the Night Goblins are pouring in, they're just trying as hard as they can to get to this Giant. Skarsnik is keeping a respectable distance, which is wise. He actually only counts as a small entity, not a large, so these Spearmen are not a huge threat to him, though his armor isn't super high, so he doesn't want to be too aggressive. Over here, the Fireborn are soloing this Giant. I'm really not sure who's going to win that matchup. It's looking a little rough for the Fireborn, but the thing they really need to be careful of is Terror. If their leadership dips too much and a Terror goes off, they could easily run off the table if they're not careful. Here, this unit of Dragon Princes is down. They are absolutely down and are going to be chased off by Wolf Riders, if not the Death Creepers, who are now rallying to the Giant's defense and are bringing in some lovely poison and other things to help out, though the Giant has broken and shattered. Oh, that is terrible. Oh, what happened? What happened? The entire Greenskin army just shattered instantly. I guess army losses kicked in. I thought they were actually rallying okay right there. Oh, you know what? The Giant died. That Giant died. Man, that is rough. I thought the Greenskins were actually rallying okay there for a moment, and then their army just completely buckled and shattered. Oh, man. But, I mean, that dragon was still at full health. The Phoenix Guard still had a ton of health. Alariel was still at full health. And, yeah, the instant this Giant died, the whole army just collapsed in on itself. Oh, man. That is rough. Alright, so that's the first game. The High Elves looking good. Looking good so far. They managed to beat the Greenskins at their own game. I think our dear Gojira may have played himself there. Alright, so for our second match, we have... Who did I say earlier? Roz versus Felcon. That's right. Oh, Badai, thank you so much for the £5 donation, brother. Let me make sure the alert box is on real quick. Boop, boop. Alright. Let's go. Speaking of which, I just picked up Mario Odyssey. I need to start playing that. Alright. Get that screen blocker up real quick. Here we've got an interesting match you don't see too often. We've got the Dreadfleet versus the Wood Elves. Or Vampire Coast versus Wood Elves. This is the first time Wood Elves have participated in the tabletop tournament. I'm curious for y'all to see what kind of Wood Elf list has arrived. Will I play that on the channel? Oh, no. No, I don't want to go through the whole make a partnership with Nintendo thing. Raw Cauliflower, thank you, sir, for the £13 donation. Let's start a donation wave. Also, if possible, please answer my last question. What's your last question? Raw Cauliflower. Oh. The Giant, Hyro Titan, and Tree Man always underperform in these matches. What buffs or mechanic changes do you think they need? So, Raw Cauliflower, I don't think that those units are necessarily really weak or underperforming. I think the thing is that most people really struggle to understand that you have to use them very carefully. They're not something that you can just throw out and expect good results. They have a certain niche that they specialize in, and you have to keep them kind of protected and central to your army. I will talk more about that between these next two matches, but we need to hurry up and get going here. So, let's start with the Wood Elves. Over here on the Wood Elf side, we've got 4 units of Wild Riders, 2 with shields, 2 without. We've got 1, 2 units of Eternal Guard, 3 units of War Dancers with spears, Azrai spears, of course. And then we've got the one and only, the Mighty Durthu, who only has Flock of Doom for magic, but he is, of course, bringing his Lamentation of Despair and the Sword of Death. And then we've got a Branch Wraith here, who only has Earthblood and Call of the Woods. So, pretty interesting army. A lot of anti-large, a lot of armor piercing, fairly fast, and a really nice cav contingent. But hey, on the good news, we don't have any super kitey nonsense. Alright, so over here for the Vampire Coast, we've got 2 units of Carronades. We've got a unit of Zombie Deckhand Pirate Mobs with polearms. We've got a unit of Morngulls who look like they're running D, as in defense. Don't take that out of context. Then we've got, I shouldn't have said that. If I would have just said nothing, no one would, never mind, I'm going to stop now. We've got 3 more units of Zombie Pirate Deckhand Mobs with polearms. We've got 2 units of Depth Guard. We've got a rank 4 unit of Gunnery Mob. Then we've got a Rotting Leviathan. We've got the Black Spot, who of course are just a really solid unit in many, many ways. And then we've got the Tide of Skjold. Alright, so 2 pretty interesting armies. Just looking at what I see so far, it seems like the Vampire Coast may have a slight advantage. But we'll have to see. And then who's leading this army? Where is thy general? Oh, there he is. Count Noctilus, the man with the belly spike on foot. And it looks like he's running the usual, just pure summon and healing. Oh no, we lost Roz. Oh, don't look at each other's armies. Uh-oh. Oh wow, Roz just... huh. Let me, see if he's on Discord. Okay, he's coming. Yeah, we got a bit of a DC there. Did it just start? Derek, we are going into the second game. Well, undead are known to crumble. Alright, Roz is back. Hopefully his computer won't fail its terror check this time when it sees the Wood Elves. All right. How are you supposed to use a Hyro Titan? The thing with the Hyro Titan is it's more of a magic battery that has some really solid support spells to snipe characters. You know, it's not really a super big like, giant unit. You know, it's not something that... It does good damage in melee, but that's not primarily what you should use it for. It's more of a battery that is capable of doing a lot of damage to things that try and corner it, but it should pretty much be in the center of your army, protected by stuff. You know, you don't want to run it out ahead of your army by itself. Yes, Kosum, so... I didn't say that right. Konosum, there we go. The way this tournament works is everybody gets one army that they have to submit to me in advance to be approved, and to make sure that, you know, they don't break any rules, because last week I didn't triple check and we had a rule break. After they submit, and they have to submit their army without knowing who they're fighting, knowing what other armies are showing up, and knowing what map they're playing on for any of the games. They just have to make a, what I call an all-comers list, which means a list that's designed to fight in any scenario. And everybody submits their list, and then on the day of, I randomize the matchups, and it's a best of one with whatever list you brought every game until we get a winner. Best of one elimination style. No. Alright, we are about ready to begin. Alright, so Durthu has already opened up with an upgraded Flock of Doom, and his cavalry comes charging in directly behind, already slamming into one of the carronades. That one's basically gone. And slamming into the zombie pirate gunnery mob. Oh man. Noctilus was not prepared. He was not prepared. So one of the carronades is basically offline already. And it looks like the Wood Elves are going to easily get the charge in here. A lot of very, very elite infantry charging in. The Rotting Leviathan has responded here. And the Wood Elves are doing a very good job of just very carefully cycle charging with their Wild Riders. I mean, look at the damage the Morghuls have already eaten from those charges. I mean, they've lost like 25% of their health already. Here, the infantry lines have begun to meet, and the Vampire Coast is going to get absolutely torn apart. The Sword of Daith here has been popped on the... Uh-oh. We're getting some lag here. Sword of Daith hasn't popped on the Depth Guard, which lowers their armor by 30. When did Sword of Daith lower armor? That's actually going to make them pretty vulnerable to the War Dancers, though the Morghuls have joined in the fray, and those War Dancers are starting to get torn apart. However, the Wild Riders do charge in and are doing a really, really good job of getting some really, really nice damage. On top of that, Durthu is doing a great job just doing some really nice slams. Hey, Chloe. And it looks like a Lamentation of Despairs went off into this cannon crew. Oh, goodness. Hopefully this peters out in a moment. We've had both these players numerous times without any lag issues, so I think it's just a rare event for today, but hopefully it'll smooth out in a minute. Good time to appreciate some slow-mo cinematics. So we got another, looks like, upgraded Flock of Doom. Or no, just a regular Flock of Doom. Going down on this rather bunched up group of undead. And it looks like the Vampire Coast is starting to rally a little bit. Noctilus is still in really good health. In various places, the Depth Guard are going to slowly but surely be able to turn the flank in their favor. They are going to butcher these Eternal Guard. The thing that is really going to be hard for the Dreadfleet right now is just dealing with all of these Wild Riders. it's going to be very, very hard for them to be able to take them all out. Though one unit has been routed off the field. I'm sure they'll come back, but we'll have to see if it sticks. Meanwhile, Durthu is being surrounded by a polearm unit. And look at that. He's already below half health. Noctilus is also in there just absolutely slamming on him. Noctilus has also been summoning a lot of gunnery mob units to replenish all the shooting units that were taken out early games. So the Vampire Coast has recovered very, very well from that initial onslaught right at the start of the game. The Wild Riders here do get an excellent rear charge into the Depth Guard, which is going to cause them some problems, but as long as the Depth Guard are in melee, especially with some not heavily armored infantry like the Eternal Guard, they will continue healing quite a bit. The Mourngulls here look like they're working with Count Noctilus to pursue after Durthu. Likely they are making use of all of their heavier mass to just be a terrible nuisance. And this Rotting Leviathan is looking like it's causing quite a bit of problems for the Wood Elves. They don't really... they have a lot of anti-large, but it has so much armor at 150, they kind of need the War Dancers to deal with it, and a lot of the War Dancers are very low, if not already dealt with. Durthu is incredibly low on health and does pull back a bit. But that Rotting Leviathan is kind of holding the line back here, and the Black Spot, who do have really nasty armor-piercing range damage, are continuously firing in on Durthu. We've got Noctilus using his bombardment spell to just keep applying damage onto Durthu. Durthu is almost below 1,000 health. If they can bring down Durthu, I think the Wood Elves are going to be in really serious trouble. It's starting to look really bad for the Wood Elves. The balance of power is starting to swing in the Vampire Coast's favor, which is very, very surprising. I actually thought for sure that the Vampire Coast was doomed early on, because that initial early charge was so powerful. But the Wood Elves, though, do have a near full health unit of War Dancers over here. I don't know if perhaps Felcon just hasn't noticed them yet, but that unit would be very, very valuable in this fight. I mean, every single model counts at this point, and oh man, that's 69. Okay, they are back in the fray. He has noticed them. Great. So they're on their way back in, because that unit could bring down the Rotting Leviathan. Alright, so the balance of power is continuing to tip little bits and pieces into the favor of the Vampire Coast. Here we see some zombie pirate deckhand mods with polearms are starting to head towards Durthu. Maybe they can bring him down. The Black Spot has rallied, and they are no longer in combat. If they can turn and get a full volley onto Durthu, he might go down. Durthu does need to pull away from these guys. If Durthu gets caught up in a fight, it's going to be a bad time. Especially with polearms. That being said, it looks like he's kind of moving through them a bit, but it looks like all the Wood Elves are rallying to the Tree Lord, trying to get these guys to completely unbind and fall apart. Durthu's health looks like it is about to dip below 1,000, though he does need to be careful. Here, this nearly full health unit of Azrai Spears is running in to fight the Leviathan, and we are getting a little bit of lag, but that's okay. This Branch Wraith has rallied. Durthu, though, is very cleverly sitting in a forest, and he does have the... Oh, no, he does not have the Blessing of Ancients. Huh, I thought he did. Because most Wood Elf characters have a ability called the Blessing of Ancients. I believe that's what it's called. Which is if they stand in a forest, they regenerate magic. Looks like none of them have it. I guess he deactivated it. But that would have been really helpful for where Durthu is actually standing on this map. Alright. Hopefully things will pick up a little bit here in a second. Looks like the Wild Riders have rode in to just try and keep the Black Spot occupied. And the Azrai Spears look like they're also joining in on that. Noctilus is proving to be very, very tough. If Durthu can stay alive long enough to get off another Lamentation of Despairs, that spell would be, or that ability would be so good for popping Noctilus, because it would do a ton of damage to him. So here we see all the Wood Elves are just cycle charging as hard as they can, trying to wipe out what remains of the infantry. If the Black Spot goes down, oh look, they are fully disintegrating. They are out of stuff, and the balance of power is starting to swing back towards the center. The only real heavy hitter that the Vampire Coast has left is the Rotting Leviathan, and of course Noctilus himself, which Noctilus is not a pushover, but the Rotting Leviathan is starting to feel its leadership collapse a little bit, and this very, very healthy unit of War Dancers with Azrai Spears is doing a ton of damage, just nicking him for about 100 health every second. Here we did see the Branch Wraith got off a very valuable heal off on Durthu, and Durthu is alive and he is good to go. And there is no shooting left over here on the side of the Vampire Coast. So Durthu is good to go. It is looking like things are very, very good for the Wood Elves. The bounty power is still against them just because of how wounded Durthu is. But with all these cycle charging Wild Riders, they're going to be able to break this Rotting Leviathan. And the instant he goes down, Noctilus is going to disintegrate. They don't even have to give a damn about Noctilus. Alright, he is starting to disintegrate. His leadership is at minus 16, minus 19. If he shatters, minus 30. They're continuing to hit him in the back, which is forcing his leadership to drop. 700, 500, 400, 200. And that's game, chat. The Rotting Leviathan goes down, and the only person left is Noctilus. And there's just so much left on the field. I mean, there's there's a whole unit still of War Dancers with Azrai Spears, and tons of Wild Riders who are going to be able to just cycle charge him into oblivion. Unless he still has some summons left, I don't see how the Count Noctilus can possibly turn this around. Because all the Wood Elves have to do is keep cycle charging him. And Durthu's just going to hang out back here where it's safe. It's going to take Noctilus a minute to die because he's not at his healing cap and he does have the hunger. Man, that was a very interesting game. I at first thought that for sure the Wood Elves had it, like no question after that initial early engagement. And then I was like, oh wait, never mind. It looks like the Vampire Coast got it. The Wood Elves are falling apart. And then the Wood Elves managed to pull it around. I think what actually really helped the Wood Elves is they had that War Dancer unit in reserve until the end, which probably was an accident. But one of the things that a lot of people don't do in this game that is actually very, very valuable, and is a strategy not enough people use, in my opinion. You have to surrender if you have a unit left, right? I don't think so. I hope he's careful. I'd hate for Durthu to go in here and just like get one shot by Noctilus. That being said, it is good to continuously swarm Noctilus because the more powerful enemies that are around him, the more likely he is to suffer severe leadership. Here we got an unbreakable unit of zombie. Okay, looks like the Vampire Coast handed it over. Which is reasonable. That's fine. Alright. So, great game. The Vampire Coast was actually defeated by the Wood Elves in a very side rule. I did not make the rules. Raw cauliflower. I used Shetland Apache's rules. Great game, gents. That was a very, very close game. What a great match. Alright, so the Vampire Coast is out, and the Wood Elves advance. So far, the Elves have taken both the first and second game. So now it is time for the third match, which is the one and only Turin versus King of the Dead. Which I believe are two former winners. Turin won the first week, if memory recalls, with the Vampire Coast, and I believe King of the Dead won the second week with Tomb Kings. So we'll have to see what's going on here. So this time, Turin is bringing his Dwarves against King of the Dead's Beastmen. So let's see what we've got in store. I'm gonna take another. All right, chat. Who are you rooting for? Do y'all stand with the true children of chaos, or do you stand with the brave Dawi? All right, let's start with Turin's army. Pretty wide army for some dwarves, which is usually a good sign. Leading the throng, we've got Ungrim Iron Fist. We've got a single war machine with a cannon. We've got 2 units of miners with blasting charges. 3 units of dwarf warriors. We've got 2 units of longbeards. 3 units of longbeards with great weapons. 2 units of slayers, one of which is giant slayers and the other one is the dragonback slayers. And then we've got 3 units of thunderers. So a really, really nice, solid, balanced Dawi army. Just what you would expect from Turin. Then over here, representing the nefarious forces of chaos, we've got 3 units of Bestigors, one of which is Koruk's Man Rippers. We've got 2 units of Ungor's Spearman Herds with shields, one of which is Destroyers of the Drakewald, who of course have some lovely poison attacks. We've got 2 units of Razor Gore Herds for some really nice cheap armor piercing. We've got a single unit of regular Centaurs. We've got a Cygor, one of my favorite units in the game. We've got 2 units of Ungor Raiders. And then leading the Beastmen is, of course, Morgur the Shadowgave with all of his little lovely summons, but not any, he doesn't have any leadership abilities, interestingly enough. And then we've got a Bray Shaman of Death with Fate of Biuna and Spirit Leech. So he's bringing 2 of the super spooky spells. And then way over on the sneaky side of things, we've got 2 units of Chaos Warhounds with Poison. So this should be a pretty interesting matchup. Looks like Turin is going for a pretty defensive setup. He does need to be careful with these cannons that they can... Oh yeah, they can draw a line of sight over that hill, no problem. And they do have a bodyguard unit, being the Dragonback Slayers. Looks like we've got miners with blasting charges. Wouldn't it be funny if those rocks could actually do damage? Like, they fall and like one of them lands on a Slayer and kills them. Lizardman DLC win, probably April, is the common consensus, I think. Alright. This will be a very interesting matchup. Both players have really, really solid armies. Both have plenty of armor piercing and armored units. Both have really solid. Both have an artillery unit. Both have a decent amount of range units. Both have some cheap chaff to deal with flanking maneuvers. So here we go. Alright, so the dwarves are already on the advance, and the cannon is already drawing its fire at Koruk's Man Rippers, while the Cygor plants just a fat one right in those dwarf warriors. Oh, Longbeards, even worse. But the cannon does return fire brilliantly, doing some very nice early damage to Koruk's Man Rippers. Alright, and now both armies are running to meet in the center. Another fat boulder goes down by the Thunderers, doing a little bit of damage, but not hitting too hard. Looks like the miners, for the most part, are moving forward. The Dragonback Slayers are advancing along with the Carronade, and those wolves are getting very, very close. Those Chaos Warhounds are very eager to get into that cannon. We'll have to see if Turin notices in time. The Thunderers look like they're all going to be unloading into Koruk's Man Rippers, which if they get a nice full volley, which they definitely are, that's going to do a ton of damage. They get some nice volleys as well into the generic Bestigors. Once again, another boulder misses, and oh no, the cannon's not looking so hot. So it looks like Turin may have been caught off guard there by those wolves, and by the time these infantry units arrive, I'm pretty sure that cannon's going to be dead. The front line looking fairly even so far. Thankfully for the dwarves, the Cygor is continuously not shooting super well. Here, the Razor Gores do get a brilliant rear charge into the miners with blasting charges and are going to absolutely shred them. Some dwarf warriors are trying to rally to their aid, but I don't know if they're going to be able to help that much. Pretty much more decent boulder goes down there. The looks like the Slayers are trying to find a home. They do manage to get into some Razor Gores here, which these giant Slayers are going to absolutely butcher. Fate of Biuna does go down on a unit of Thunderers, which is going to do some really, really nice damage. The front line is looking okay for the Dawi. It looks like they're pretty much winning anywhere there's not Bestigor And then where there are Bestigor, Turin did do a really good job of stacking his infantry. So even where there are Bestigor, it looks like Turin's actually winning the front line overall. These Hounds do jump in on the Thunderers, and with the combination of the Fate of Biuna, do manage to take them down. Meanwhile, in the center, Morgar is facing off against Ungrim Iron Fist alongside Korruk's Manrippers and the Bray Shaman of Death. And Ungrim is taking some pretty ugly damage, but he also is managing to return it to these two characters. Looks like he's trying to get rid of this Bray Shaman, and every time he hits him, he does hit him for a lot, but that poison is going to be a big problem. Ungrim does need to be very careful. Looks like the archers are doing a very good job trying to put the hurt on the slayers as best they can. The Centaurs are running around doing a very nice job of focusing the Thunderers, but Turin's not one to delay back and not notice. He's got the Dragonback Slayers actively pursuing them. The balance of power is very heavily against the Dawi at this point, but I'm not 100% sold. The Slayers are still doing okay, and there are quite a few units of Longbeards. The final unit of Chaos Spawn has been summoned, but they're up against Longbeards and Slayers, so I can't see them doing very well. But oh no, that unit that was supporting Ungrim did get defeated and is left the Slayer King completely undefended. He's only got 290 health left. He needs to get to safety, but he's got that Bray Shaman right behind him. Oh, don't get killed by a Bray Shaman. That's not a good way to die. Oh, a Spirit Leech. Ungrim is down. The Slayer King, no! The Slayer King goes down, and the Dwarves have managed to clean up most of the front line, but there's still a completely unmolested Cygor back there with about half his ammo still hurling boulders to his heart's content. And the Dawi have managed to win the flanks, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. They have a couple of units of Thunderers left, but I don't know if that's enough to completely turn things in their favor. Korruk's Manrippers are on death's door. If they can get Korruk's Manrippers out of here, they could surround Morgar and bring him down potentially. That Bray Shaman of Death is still alive though, and that could be really, really bad if he manages to pop off another spell. But he does have a party of his own going on with these Longbeards with great weapons. Morgar has been isolated now, and he has none other than the Dragonback Slayers on him, ready to tear his face off. He needs to go down before army losses takes out the rest of the Dawi forces. Looks like the Dwarves are doing an okay job of rallying. The Thunderers are opening fire into the Bray Shaman of Death. And it looks like the Dwarves are trying to make sure these Ungor Raiders cannot fire into the Slayers. The boulders are still coming in from that nasty Cygor back there. But this is almost entirely Slayers surrounding Morgar. And they do need to make sure they actually surround him. Right now they're all facing him on one side. It would be good to pull through with like the Giant Slayers or the Dragonback Slayers. Oh, really nice boulder there. That did a ton of damage. And Morgar is actually doing a really good job of facing off against these Slayers. Here, the Bray Shaman of Death is doing a good job of pulling back. And Korruk's Manrippers, though, have been completely broken. There are some Warhounds here that are trying to take advantage of the situation. And it looks like the Giant Slayers, though, are quick to respond, catching a couple of them. But they might be able to take these Thunderers offline. The Razor Gores over here do shatter. The Bray Shaman here is broken. It'd be really nice to see him shattered. Morgar needs to die. The Dwarves need to kill Morgar really fast. He still has about 2,500 HP. Meanwhile, the Warhounds are actually broken by the Thunderers in close combat, and the balance of power is still absurdly against the Dwarves, I'm guessing just because Morgar is still alive. But Morgar is slowly getting worn down, though it looks like Turin is pulling away from Morgar. That way the Thunderers can just open fire on him. They can catch him in a really nice crossfire here between these two units, which is the most effective way to deal with him, because he's not going to be able to use his poison and his melee defense to protect himself, obviously. Though Morgar does have some pretty decent melee or missile resistance. He has 75% missile resistance. So, I mean, it's hard to kill him with just shooting. If I return, I'd almost think that it'd be better to send the Giant Slayers off on a solo quest to bring down the that full health Cygor, but I don't know, we'll see. Looks like Turin has shattered this side of the Beastmen line, and it looks like the Dragonback Slayers are running off to try and occupy the Cygor, and it's looking so rough for the Dwarves. Like, the balance of power is just so against them, just because of this Cygor. This Cygor being at full health is counting so heavily for the balance of power, and Turin has to be careful, because if these Dragonback Slayers, for instance, go down, 7 of them left, they could very easily tip the balance of power enough that army losses gets triggered. Here we do see some Dwarf Warriors try and rally to their aid, but unfortunately they do get cut down. And it looks like Turin has given up on trying to take down Morgar, and that triggers army losses. Oh, that is so rough. Oh, man, I thought Turin had that. I thought Turin had that there. He was making such a comeback, but the balance of power is just so heavily against him. Turin does throw what's left of his Slayers against the nearest enemy units. That way they can just get cut down really, really quick. But, oh, man. That Cygor just got his money's worth. That cannon, unfortunately, just caught by those Warhounds a little too early. And when the cannon got taken offline, King of the Dead had complete control over the artillery game. 125 kills with that Cygor, and he was being fairly inaccurate a lot. So, GG to Turin. Great game. Unfortunately, it is not the Dawi's day. Not the Dawi's day. All right. So the Beastmen have won. So far, we're getting a pretty interesting looking matchup near the finals. We've got 2 Elves and now some Beastmen. What a close game, though. Looks like the only thing... honestly, Turin was doing such a good job of turning that around. He was really carefully and surgically removing parts of the Beastmen line. He managed to win the front line despite the heavy Bestigors. Looks like the only thing that really damned him was the cannon getting taken offline too early, and Ungrim got isolated. Ungrim managed to get surrounded and isolated by Morgar, who was applying poison, the Brave Chain of Death, who kept spirit leeching, and then the Korux Man-Rippers, who just have such high AP. So unfortunately, that Ungrim getting cut out like that, man, that was rough. I was really pulling for the Dawi that time. Alright, so we're off to the final battle of the quarterfinals. Man, it is warm up here today. What temperature is it outside? It's 68 degrees. Oh my gosh. Hold on a second, chat. I gotta go turn on my air conditioning because I am boiling alive. And then semifinals 1 will be on. Oops. Alright. I'm going to go turn on my air conditioning while it does that. Man, that means it's going to be a beautiful day outside. Or beautiful day outside. Alright, so this time we've got Norsca versus more High Elves. Everybody's favorite. Alright, so let's look at Professor Pone first. So Pone is bringing in a, looks like a male prince, or no, is that a princess? No, it's prince. Yeah, no shooting bar, Sotek, good job. Alright, so we got a prince on a star dragon. We got a mage of heavens with comet, Harmonic Convergence, and Curse of the Midnight Wind. We've got, looks like 3 units of archers. Got some Silver Helms, Phoenix Guard, and then a front line of 4 units of spearmen with at least one. Looks like most of them have 1 chevron. Yep, all but 1. Then we got a unit of Swordmasters of Hoeth. And finally, we've got the Heralds of the Wind. So, the good news is, it's not a Dragon Prince spam army like we have been seeing. But then, over from the foul north, we've got the Norskins, who have brought in, we've got a lot of Fimmer. Looks like we've got 3 units of Fimir warriors. We've got the Maws of Savagery, the armored skinwolves with some really nice AP. We've got 2 units of Marauder Horsemasters, who have excellent ranged and melee damage. Then we've got 2 units of Norscan Warhounds. I believe this is actually the first time the Norskins have been in this tournament as well. Then for the front line, we've got a unit of Marauders with the Chevrons, some Marauder Champions, the Icehorn Marauders, who are such an awesome unit, and then another unit of Marauders. And then leading the army is Wulfric the Wanderer on his rather sinister-looking horse. And he does have Seafang, Hunter of Champions, and Fight or Die. And I need to go close a door very, very quick. Go get him. Go get him. Hey, Dad. Old man's home. Alright. We are ready to go. Can we swear? Yeah. I mean, try to keep it, you know, within reason. Oh, also we've got a Shaman Sorcerer of Death here who's also running the Spirit Leech Fated Buna combo. Seems the forces of chaos are not pulling their punches today with those 2 very, very nasty spells. Alright, the Heralds of the Wind have shot out ahead of the main army and are beginning to start the engagement. Looks like they might be firing into the Fimmer, which is not going to do a ton of damage. The Fimmer do have very, very high armor, and they have their Miss ability. I really hate that it, like, auto moves. They've got From the Mist, which gives them an additional 22% missile resistance. So yeah, these arrows are not going to do squat, especially since these shots are not armor piercing. Meanwhile, the Marauder Horsemasters have rode to the front and are returning fire, but they unfortunately probably get a little more than they bargained for. But that being said, that Dragon Breath did not do a ton. The Marauder Horsemasters do throw a bunch of javelins up in response into the dragon, and that Dragon Breath unfortunately kind of whipped. It looked like maybe the dragon was a little bit too high above them, so when it came down like this, it hit a select few models and killed them. Generally with Dragon Breaths, you want to try and get as much of a sideways angle as possible. That way it stretches across the unit. Alright, so here the Norscan Warhounds are taking a lot of missile fire. They do have scaly skin, so they are fairly good against... They do have like 15 or 20% missile resistance, but they'll still take some pretty considerable damage. But the Marauder Horsemaster is going to be able to respond very heavily if the Heralds of the Wind aren't careful. And here the front lines are meeting. The High Elf Spearmen do countercharge, so they are not braced, which means the Fimir are going to be able to come in swinging with their full charge bonus, which is generally not advisable. And they also came out of the forest, which means the Fimir are not going to be taking the terrain penalty they normally would for fighting in the forest. So expectedly, because of that, the High Elf front line just completely buckles. The only unit that might hold out for a bit are the Swordmasters of Hoeth, but thanks to the Fimir, their armor is being reduced to 60, so those Marauders are going to be able to chew through them. Over here, though, the Silverhounds do get a beautiful charge into the Marauders. It looks like a Dragon Breath goes down on Wulfric, but he either dodged it by stopping or it hit the tree. I didn't quite see what happened, but he did not take any damage. So that's 0 for 2 of Dragon Breaths. Here we see the High Elf line has already completely buckled. The archers are doing what damage they can, though the dragon does dive in and do a ton of damage to that Shaman Sorcerer of Death. Like, man, he just it was like a charge and then a single slap, and he just nuked him. But Hunter of Champions does go down on the Prince, and the Maws of Savagery along with Wulfric are quick to surround this dragon along with a ton of Marauders, and this dragon is going to get absolutely dumpstered. Like, those Maws of Savagery alone could win that fight with the Hunter of Champions active. The Silverhelms do ride in to try and help, but the Fimir Warriors are right there. Over here, it looks like Pone does cast a Comet, but that... Oh, no! That looked like it killed way more Phoenix Guard than it did anything else. Oh, man. I think the High Elves may have hired a Chaos Cultist or a Dark Elf in disguise based on that Comet. Here we do see a Curse of the Midnight Wind going down, but I think it's too little too late. That dragon is basically dead. If a Spirit Leech goes off on him, there's no way he's coming back. Marauder Horsemasters are riding around, riding dirty, doing a really nice job of just finishing off units. And the Marauder infantry line actually did slowly but surely get beaten back by the rest of the High Elves. Notably those Swordmasters, who in conjunction with the Spearmen actually won against their Fimir block. But unfortunately, the Maws of Savagery and the Horsemasters are still riding around very, very healthy. The Dragon committed a little too heavily without any notable support. And because of that, I think the High Elves are just doomed. It looks like the High Elves actually did okay on the front line on this flank, where they actually had the forest to their advantage. But the rest of their army is just getting absolutely ripped to shreds. And with how much is left, I don't know if there's any way they can recover. Yeah. So that is game. Very, very quick battle. What you would expect from Norsca. So, interestingly enough, in game 1, we had both Order Elven factions get through. And in the 3 and 4, we had both Chaos factions get through. So we're going to have a duel of the good guys and a duel of the bad guys for the semifinals. Oh man, yeah, that was rough. The High Elves, I mean, that's a hard matchup based on the armies that showed up. Pone would have needed to stagger his army so that Seafang couldn't have instantly destroyed his army. He would have needed to stagger his archers, which he did, and then he would have needed to have his Phoenix Guard and his Swordmasters help push back the Fimir, while also defending his back line with nothing but the archers, Silverhelms, and Heralds of the Wind. And then the Dragon would have needed to wait to engage Wulfric without the Maws of Savagery nearby. That was a very, very hard matchup. Alright, and with that, we are off to the first of the semifinals, which is going to be the High Elves versus the Wood Elves. What do you think, chat? Are y'all feeling tree hippies, or are you feeling stuck up High Elves? Any thoughts? Any thoughts? Hunter of Champions is OP. A draw and they're both kicked out. Alright, we're not going to use a screen blocker for the rest of the tournament. You have seen all the armies. So there shouldn't be any surprises or stream sniping. Is Lotus Moon in this tourney? No, he is not. Maybe 1 week, but not this week. Can they change the armies at all? Nope. Carlos, what you show up with is what you get through the entire tourney. That's why it's an all-comers list. You have to make your list so that it can fight all possible enemies. That's the beauty and the devilishness of it. So, in case y'all missed the preliminaries, as we are slowly but surely getting more and more viewers, which I appreciate. If y'all are enjoying the tournament, please do consider hitting that like button. It helps out the channel and the video a lot for people who'd like to watch in the future. Alright, so for the High Elves, we've got 4 units of Spearmen, all of which have 1 Chevron. We've got the Keepers of the Flame, which are the Kamikaze Phoenix Guard. We've got a unit of Anilian Reavers. Illyrian, there we go. We've got 2 units of Dragon Princes, one of which is the Fireborn. We've got a Star Dragon, and then we've got Alariel the Radiant up on her Great Eagle with Tempest, Arcane Unforging, and Earthblood. Over here, we've got 3 units of Eternal Guard, 4 units of War Dancers with Azrai Spears. We've got a Branch Wraith who only has Earthblood, Durthu, who of course just brought Flock of Doom and Sword of Daith. Then we got 4 units of Wild Riders, 2 of which have shields. And with that, we are good to go. Alright, we'll have to see what happens. Neither army have ranged units, so they both will probably have to run right at each other's faces. And it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. This will be an interesting fight. I do think that the Wood Elves have a vastly superior front line. However, the Keepers of the Flame are a pretty powerful unit, and the only reliable way for the Wood Elves to take them down is with Dorthu and his magic. So if the Keepers of the Flame and the Dragon Princes can be kept alive, they'll be very, very good. And the Fireborn especially, flaming and anti-large damage against Dorthu is like an instant death. So Dorthu is going to have to be very, very cautious of the Fireborn and the Star Dragon, quite frankly. Both of these guys have a ton of flaming damage. So Dorthu is going to have to be kept very safe. He's going to need at least 2 Azrai Spears, in my opinion, constantly guarding him to make sure that those flaming units do not jump in and scorch him. Alright, the armies are moving fully into position. The Wild Riders are running around looking for places that they can help tear things apart. It looks like the Wood Elf army is actually splitting completely in half, which is an interesting strategy, but I think could work. The Wood Elves are more than capable of wiping out all of the heavy hitters in the High Elf line, as the Spears will have no problem tearing apart the... the High Elves need to be so careful. Oh no! Oh no! He is in a forest, and those are Azrai Spears. You need to get the hell out of Dodge, bro. He needs to be very, very careful. Looks like the dragon is preparing for a fire breath. The Wild Riders have completely taken off after the Fireborn. The race is on. And it looks like some of the unit was unfortunately caught out. And when you're fighting in a forest, all Wood Elves have a damage buff when they fight in the forest. You do not want to fight Wood Elves in forest. All archers have an accuracy bonus, and most of their infantry have like straight out melee bonuses and stuff. So you don't want to engage them in a forest, especially when you're a cav, because your large units will take a penalty. Here we see Dorthu unleashes, looks like the Sword of Daith, which is going to be reducing the armor of the Dragon Princess by 30, while also doing a ton of magic damage, which is just great. The dragon has landed on the ground and is getting torn apart by Dorthu, because Dorthu got the charge and it did not. It looks like here he throws down an Overcast Flock of Doom, which is being countered by a Star of Avalorn. With the Star of Avalorn, I'm not sure if it's hitting both Dragon Prince units. Actually, it's only hitting one of them, but the Fireborn unfortunately break and run away from its influence, so the only thing being healed is a dragon, which is really, really good for the Wood Elves that Star of Avalorn got wasted. That being said, Dorthu needs to get away from this dragon. With it being constantly healed by the Star of Avalorn, this is a really bad matchup for him. And an Arcane Unforging goes down, and he's constantly being hit by fire damage and now magic damage. He is taking so much damage. Dorthu is getting absolutely ground into paste, especially with the Keepers of the Flame jumping on him. And the Wild Riders do here run into the fray, trying to deal with the dragon and get Dorthu a breath of fresh air. A Overcast Earthblood does go down on him, trying to bring his health back up, and it looks like he's barely stabilized just in time. All the Dragon Princes, though, have been, for the most part, taken offline. That one unit is completely dead, it looks like. I don't even see their banner. It looks like they're just gone. And the Fireborn do charge here, but there's not enough of them to beat so many Wild Riders, especially with their fairly high armor piercing, even though they're not expressly an armor piercing unit. The Branch Wraith does try and get involved in this fight here, but she is also very vulnerable to fire damage, so that dragon's able just to slap her. Alario does need to get out of here, though. Dorthu will have no problem tearing her up. And the dragon looks like he is going in on Dorthu, but the Wild Riders have completely surrounded it. And Dorthu looks like he's sticking in for the fight, and he does hit for a lot of damage. An Overcast Earthblood does go down to help keep Dorthu up against the health. These Aurelian Reavers need to stop sitting around. They need to find a place to get part and help in the fight. All the Spearmen have committed across the front line, and it looks like they're doing okay against the Eternal Guard. Both those units don't do a ton of damage, so they'll probably just be sitting there hitting each other with Wiffle Bats for a while. The dragon is getting very, very close to breaking. If the High Elves or the Wood Elves can break this dragon, they will have the game. And there it goes, the dragon, he's not quite broken. There he goes, the dragon is broken, but those Wild Riders are not letting that thing get away. He has burned too many trees in his life. He does not deserve to live. And they are absolutely sticking to him like glue. And they are slowly but surely beating him down, and the dragon is dead. The last of the fire damage for the High Elves is gone. Alario is completely surrounded by superior weight class units. She's not going to be able to push out, and Dorthu is going to be absolutely beating the snot out of her without any issue. He is going to absolutely pile drive her into the ground. No, but it looks like the Wild Riders are falling back a bit to try and give themselves some breathing room from the reaction of all of these spearmen. But Durthu does respond to the start of Avalorn with his own Sword of Death, and he's continuing to wail on Alariel. These spearmen are not going to do jack to Durthu. He has 100 armor. They barely have any armor piercing. Not going to be a good matchup for them. The Illyrian Reavers get shattered by those sisters, and that is game. Oh, man. It was looking really, really good there for the High Elves for a solid minute, but Falcon did a really good job of just making sure Durthu stayed safe. I mean, the High Elves were, in my opinion, very, very disadvantaged going into that matchup due to the army they chose to bring. All those Dragon Princes, like I said last week, all those Dragon Princes easily won the tournament last week because a lot of people didn't bring a response to them. But you can see here that Falcon, who was actually the winner last week with his High Elves, did bring a response to Dragon Princes. So the people who brought what won last week ended up facing a faction that was very, very well kitted out and designed to deal with them. Which I love about this format. Alright, and with that, we are off to the second semifinal. What the heck? This is the only battle going on? Okay, I was like, what is this heresy? Alright, and we've got King versus Flying Taco, which could actually make for a really good restaurant name. They're supposed to be on Averheim, but I think Averheim is the map that constantly, like, changes where it goes. So, as long as it's a different map and they're both okay with it, I don't really care. Alright, so the High Elves are out. No High Elves are making it to the finals this week. And now we've got the Chaos matchup. I'm pretty sure Taco King is a restaurant. There is no way that Taco King is not already a restaurant. Are you the only green person here? Maybe. I don't know if everybody knows about being oh gosh, what's the word for it? YouTube uses a stupid word for it. I don't know if everybody knows about the equivalent to Twitch subscriptions here on YouTube, which does give you access to some pretty cool emotes, just saying. Sponsors, that's what they're called. I'm also looking to do some sponsor-only content in the near future, but that'll be up soon. Subtle. Got it. I'm the king of subtlety. Sponsor versus Patreon, whatever suits you better. Whatever suits you better. I think, for me personally, patrons are better. They have different interactions. Alright, anyway. So we've got, let's start with Norsca. We got 3 units of regular Marauder, no, excuse me, 2 units of Marauders, a unit of Marauder Champions, and then we've got the Icehorn Marauders. We've got 3 units of Famir Warriors. We've got the Maws of Savagery. We've got 2 units of Marauder Horsemasters, 2 units of Norscan Warhounds. We got the, and then we've got a Death Shaman Sorcerer on a Steed with Spirit Leech and Fata Biuna, and we've got Wulfric the Wanderer on a Chaos Steed with his usual junk, but no Sword of Torgald. Over here on the Beastmen side, we've got 3 units of Bestgors, one of which is Korax Man Rippers. We've got a Cygor. We've got also a Death Brace Shaman instead of a Shaman Sorcerer. With Spirit Leech and Fata Biuna. We've got Morgar the Shadow Gave leading them. 2 units of Ungor Raiders, 2 units of Ungor's Spearman Herd with shields, one of which is the Destroyers of the Drakewald. 2 units of Razorgore Herds. 2 units of Chaos Warhounds with poison, and a unit of Centigores. Alright, the battle has begun with the honorary boulder toss right into a Fimmer's face. Thankfully, the Fimmer do have very, very high missile resistance, so that actually did not do a ton of damage. Because I think they have like 40? They have 22? Okay, they just have a flat 22. Okay. Okay. Not the best boulder tosses yet. Alright, looks like the Beastmen are happy to hold the line for a minute while those boulders keep raining in. There's a good one. Hit a Fimmer in the face, and it hit a bunch of Marauder champions. Alright, we have our first Fate of Buna of the game going down on Korik's Man Rippers, which is going to do some pretty considerable damage. Man, if there's one thing I would wish they would add in this game to Wizard Heroes, I would really like for more characters to have abilities to, like, lower enemy winds of magic, and like with the Dispel Scroll like we had in Tabletop, or just make units, like, have a ability to give a single unit really, really high magic resistance. Random wish there. It always stinks when you go up against a spell where you're just like, well, I guess I'll just die. But the Beastmen are quick to respond with their own Fate of Buna going down on the Icehorn Marauders. So at least in the matchup of Fate of Bunas, there are multiple ones. Alright, the battle lines have met. The Bestigors, unfortunately, do not get the charge, which is really rough for them. Looks like, I mean, for Korik's Man Rippers that works, because they're just wanting to defend. Fight or Die has been popped by Wulfric as he eagers his forces to fight hard and tear people in half. The first Chaos Spawn from Morgar does go down, and the Korik's Man Rippers get literally ripped limb from limb and knocked aside like they're not even there. The Fimir do run in against Morgar along with the Icehorn Marauders and completely surround him and start circle beating on him. But Morgar does have fairly high magic resistance, so he's a very good opponent for the Fimir Warriors. Unfortunately, though, Hunter of Champions goes down on this Brave Shaman of Death, and Wulfric literally rips his face in half before he has a chance to respond. Things are looking very, 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 very bad for the Beastmen at the moment. All of the Bestigors are completely gone already. The front line for the Beastmen is totally gone. Razorgores are trying to salvage the situation by charging in, but things are not looking great for King of the Dead. The Ungor Raiders have been completely shut down by the Warhounds, who are riding around doing as they please, tearing people apart. Morgar is being totally ignored, and the Cygors being focused on, but these are regular Fimmers, so they don't have anti-large, so the Cygor will be able to punish them quite a bit. Meanwhile, we do have the first unit of Chaos Spawn, which were the Summon, are pretty much down. The Beastmen have managed to take one of the flanks by breaking the Maws of Savagery and seeing off the Horse Masters, and the balance of power is surprisingly even, considering how badly Norsca smashed their way through the Beastmen front line. But one of the things that the Beastmen are notorious for is they're very similar. The Beastmen are one of the high rally factions, along with Skaven and Greenskins. They are a faction that specializes in having their units beaten. They run around, run away, they rally, and then come back. Here we see the Shaman Sorcerer of Death does pop a Spirit Leech on the Brave Shaman of Death and tries to ride off to finish him off by breaking or killing him, but the Bestigors quickly rally to their bro's defense and are helping defend the Brave Shaman, or the Bro Shaman, I guess I should call him. Korik's Man Rippers, though, have been shattered, and Morgar is being focused down by Wulfric, who is capable of killing him, but the Spearmen do rally to Wulfric, and he has a Spirit Leech popped on... Wait, what? Who is that Spirit Leech hitting? I wasn't able to figure out who that was on fast enough. It looked like it was hitting those Ungor. It looked like Flying Taco may have tried to Spirit Leech Morgar, but he may have misclicked on accident and hit a Spearman unit. And here we can see this entire flank legion of the Beastmen has rallied to Wulfric's side, and things are starting to look a little dicey for Norsca. They are managing, though, to bring down the Cygor, but all of the Fimir are being broken or are being slowly but surely pushed back. Wulfric is still in good health. I say as I look for him. Where's Wulfric? Oh, there he is. Wulfric is still in good health, but he does need to be very, very careful. These Razorgore herds do very high armor piercing, and they are capable of harming him. A Spirit Leech does go down on him as the death duel continues. Here we see the Shaman Sorcerer of Death runs in on the Brave Shaman of Death and has almost killed him. He has managed to break him, but if he can, he should really make sure that he shatters and gets off the battlefield. I'm sure the Norskins are absolutely kicking themselves right now over not finishing off earlier, because that did allow them to get some more value. Wulfric is making sure this Cygor does not come back, because if that Cygor rallies, that is a bad time, because he will be far enough away where he can chuck rocks with impunity. I say that, and look who's back. The Beastmen are doing a decent job of piling into this big melee in the center and turning it in their favor, but the Brave Shaman of Death is gone for sure. The Cygor chucks his return rock and absolutely slaughters a Razor Gore, but does manage to break the Fimir thanks to the leadership bonus that leadership debuff that being hit with artillery does. The balance of power is starting to swing heavily in Norsca's favor, despite the fact that this situation looks really, really bad for them. Morgr does kill a unit and summons Chaos Spawn in their place earlier. Wulfric does need to be very, very careful. If he gets surrounded by Razor Gore herds, they can easily pile drive him into oblivion. The Maws of Savagery, though, are running in on the Razor Gore herds. They are a perfect unit to counter them, while the Destroyers of the Drakewald and Morgr run in on Wulfric the Wanderer to provide their lovely poison bonus. The Marauders and the Icehorn Marauders are trying to help stabilize the situation around Wulfric the Wanderer, while the Horse Master Champions ride around trying to be a nuisance. The Cygor has been seen off by the Brave Shaman of Death, who will easily be able to kill him, if not just escort him off the battlefield. And the Fimir are rallying over here, along with other units of the Norscan line running back. Things are looking very, very dire for the Beastmen. They are slowly but surely being torn apart just by continuous cycle charges, as there's no Beastmen left to try and see off aspects of the Norscan army as they break, so the Norskins are able to rally and come back. Wulfric does run in here trying to bring down Morgr, though Morgr is more than capable of dealing with him for the moment, but the Fimir do rally and they're providing a nice fear bonus, which is going to be very, very dangerous for these units that don't cause fear, like the Centaurs and the Destroyers of the Drakewald. And the Death Sorcerer is back. He is charging in, providing a nice charge bonus and a Spirit Leech if needed. But Hunter of Champions does go down on Morgr, which looks like is going to spell death for Morgr, and it looks like army losses are going to activate any moment now, as Morgr is the only thing left standing. And there it is. King of the Dead has been put down alongside his Beastmen. Morgr, the Shadow Gave, will have to respawn another day. Alright, so Norsca has won, so that means in the finals we've got Flying Taco versus Felcon. Oop. I don't know why I went in there. That's not where I wanted to be. Great game to both players, though. Absolutely great game. Alright, guys. This is the finals for today's match. Today's tournament. Wood Elves versus Norsca over in the Altdorf outskirts. Who will win? The forces of order or the forces of chaos? I will say the heavy anti-large by the Wood Elves does look very favorable. But the Norscan front line is not to be messed with. And they do actually have a fair amount of ranged units, thanks to all their Marauder Horsemasters, and the which can provide a lot of really solid assistance. Loremaster Sotek, why are the vast majority of RTS tournaments 1v1? Christian, because it makes it possible to keep up with what's going on. If you have a single caster trying to watch 4 people fight at the same time, typically the battlefield is very, very, very busy, and it's really hard to keep up with what's going on the entire time. Alright, now we're just waiting on Flying Taco. If Wulfric were to challenge Durthu, what would the words translate to? Oh, I'd probably... That might be a fun thing to do for, like, April Fools this year. Like, maybe I'll make a lore video for April Fools that just has Wulfric, like, shouting a specially crafted insult to every single legendary lord in the game. That might be a good idea for April Fools. That could be fun. No promises. What would he say to Mazda Money? I'd literally have to think about it. I'd want to, like, actually craft a good version of the insults. Where is Flying Taco? Oh, you can't see it. Okay. Did I ever try Ninth Age? Meh. Yeah, I did. I wasn't a huge fan. I was okay with it for a little bit, but when they kind of lost their minds, and Turin coming in with a fat $10 donation with "They have wronged us." Thanks for the support, brother. And yes, you were definitely wronged, Turin. What do I mean lost their minds? So the point of Ninth Age originally, when they started it was a reaction to the end times. Richard Nomiak coming in with the $2 donation. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for the support. What was I saying? It was initially a reaction to the end times killing off Warhammer Fantasy, and they were people that obviously didn't want that to happen. So they decided to... Dosic, thanks so much for the 10 euros, I think is what that is, which says satisfy the grudge. Thanks for the support, guys. I really appreciate it. Anyway, so the thing that Ninth Age did was that its initial goal was to be a continuation of 8th edition. And basically try and make it so that 8th edition would survive. And they were like, okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to create 8th edition, but we're going to, like, get rid of some of the, like, super egregious issues. And, that's going to be it. But then after that, they suddenly started doing stuff like, oh, well, instead of doing that, we're going to make it now so that we're going to completely get rid of this rule set we don't like. And then they're like, oh, and on top of that, now we're going to start adding new units to armies. Oh, and on top of that, we're going to completely rework the magic system. Oh, and on top of that, we're going to rework the item system. Oh, and we actually don't like the old magic system, so not only instead of reworking the spells, now we're just going to get rid of the magic system and replace it with a new magic system that's based on, like, 5th edition. And they were like, oh, well, we don't like that, so we're going to keep adding more units that completely ruin the thematics of the armies that they were originally based on. And, oh, we don't really like the way monsters work, so instead of having monsters have separate profiles, so you could have the thematic idea of a monster getting killed and a guy get up and keep fighting, and, you know, just on and on and on and on. And I was okay with their original mission statement, but then they went super overboard with what it was supposed to be, and ended up just creating a completely new game. Calling it 9th Age, I think, is very disingenuous, because it's not a continuation of Warhammer Fantasy. It's not like building off the prior editions like Warhammer had done through at least 6th through 8th. Instead, it was just a completely new game that just uses models from Warhammer, and that's like about as closely related as it gets. Well, King of the Dead, if you'd like, just saying, for those of you who aren't into Super Chat, which is understandable because Super Chat is not my favorite thing, there is a Streamlabs link in the description under all my live streams, and under the if you go to that Streamlabs link, if you prefer to use PayPal or whatever, you can use Streamlabs link to donate to me directly, which is awesome. If you want to. Obviously, you don't have to. Alright, so now we've got the final matchup today, guys. This is the finals. And we've got Wood Elves versus a Norsca. There's this magical thing. There's this wondrous cool thing. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called an opinion, and it's almost like someone can have a different opinion than you. And I know it's crazy to think. It doesn't necessarily mean either person is wrong, but like when you ask someone like, "Hey, I think this thing's really cool. What do you think?" and they say, "I don't really like it that much." If you then say, "Well, yeah, but it's actually pretty good," it's almost like that doesn't invalidate their opinion. Like, if they think it's bad, it's still bad to them. I know it's a wild thing, but, you know, just something to consider. Anyway, let's get going. So we've got these 4 units of Wild Riders who are running off to the flank. I love you, man. Don't... I love you, don't... I'm just messing with you. We've got 4 units of Wild Riders, 2 with shields off to either flank. We've got 4 units of Azrai Spears in the center, along with 2 units of Eternal Guards. We've got Durthu leading the line, and he fires off a very early Lamentation of Despairs, which... Did that hit somebody? Oh no, it almost hit somebody. But it does kill a couple of Marauder Horsemasters, brings down 4 of them, which is a full rank. Meanwhile, we've also got a Branch Wraith, and Durthu, for anyone wondering, spell-wise, has Flock of Doom and the Sword of Daith. Then, over here for Norsca, we've got 2 units of Marauder Horsemasters, who are, of course, leading the early engagement. Then we got 4 units of Marauders, one of which is Marauder Champions, one of which is the Icehorn Marauders, 2 units of Norscan Warhounds, 3 units of Fimmer, a Shaman Sorcerer of Death with Spirit Leech and Fate of Buna. Then we've got the Maws of Savagery and Wulfric the Wanderer. Alright, so an early Fate of Buna coming out on the Wild Riders with shields, which they can run around all they want. It's not going to save them, unfortunately. But a overcast... What is happening here? Okay, I guess he decided not to cast it. Looks like he was a little late on it. But, I mean, they still have all 45 models off. It didn't kill any models. So, an Overcast Earthblood would do a ton of healing. Here, these Eternal Guard don't have shields, so they are actually taking a ton of damage from the Marauder Horsemasters, who are doing a very, very good job of guarding the Norscan army to really make the Wood Elves pay for every inch. Here, the Marauder Champions do charge in, but they get avoided and get countercharged. But the Fimir are like, nah, we're having none of that. And they just run after the Eternal Guard to capture them. And here we have all of the charges coming in. Kind of an awkward angle on a lot of these, but that's actually a very, very good strategy that not a ton of people use because it's difficult to do. is if one thing to do when charging is to try and pull back your unit that's being charged and charge with a different unit. That way your opponent doesn't get their charge bonus while you do. The Sword of Death does come out here and does a ton of damage to the Norskins, but Wulfric responds with his boat, which absolutely butchers this unit of Eternal Guard and this unit of War Dancers with Azrai Spears. But a really fat, look how many birds there are. A really fat, overcast Flock of Doom comes down to counteract the boat, and the Norskins are taking a ton of damage. But we can already see that a Spirit Leech and a Hunter of Champions has been popped on Durthu, as Wulfric is trying to find a good place to surround him and get in on him. And we can see both armies, after they clashed into each other, have scattered to the winds, as both sides have taken colossal amounts of damage. But Norsca does not have anybody that causes terror, while the Wood Elves do with Durthu. So a lot of those Marauders that are running away are explicitly running away because they suffered from terror. The Maws of Savagery, though, are doing a really good job of surrounding and catching these Wild Riders and doing tons and tons of damage to them, though they are a bit outnumbered, so they do need to be careful. Marauder Horsemasters are chilling in the back, just throwing spears all day long, trying to do as much damage as they can from a safe distance. The Shaman Sorcerer of Death has been caught by a group of Azrai Spears, with War Dancers with Azrai Spears, there we go. But it looks like the Fimir might be trying to rally to his aid. He does break, but the Fimir are right there to help support him along with Wulfric. Durthu is doing very, very well health-wise, and the balance of power has started to swing in the Wood Elves' favor. A lot of parts of the Norscan army are starting to rally, though they are a little far away from the front line. We'll have to see if they're able to rally in time to really make an impact. Wulfric does need to be careful. He is getting surrounded a little bit, but the Shaman Sorcerer has rallied. He could be very, very useful. Oh man, here comes a boat! Beautiful boat! Absolutely disintegrates a bunch of these War Dancers. I don't know if it's going to be enough. We do still have a lot of javelins being thrown in, but it looks like the javelins are out. But some of those War Dancers have shattered, so that's really good. We got Wild Riders that have shattered. We got War Dancers that have shattered. Looks like the Maws of Savagery, though, and these Warhounds have been sent off. But it looks like the Norskins are rallying back into a singular front line, which is going to be really good. Wulfric looks like he's running the long way around to try and find a safe spot. Though this Branch Wraith needs to be very, very careful. This Branch Wraith is very isolated. And if Norsca decided to respond heavily, it could be bad. The last unit of Wild Riders, or second to last unit, one's chasing off a unit, does ride in here trying to get some early damage, but they do get countercharged very heavily. But the Eternal Guard and the War Dancers are there to back them up, along with a regular cast Earthblood. The rest of the Norscan line are trying to very, very carefully position themselves to get in around the Wood Elves. The balance of power has swung back to dead even, and these Warhounds come swooping in on this Branch Wraith, which the Branch Wraith is actually a decent combatant, but if she gets too isolated, oh boy, Daddy Wulfric's in here. Wulfric will easily be able to put her in a trash can, and we do see that Spirit Leech is being spam cast as fast as it can on Durthu, while Wulfric has popped Hunter of Champions on this Branch Wraith, and he's trying to kill her before Durthu can actually turn around and cause him any significant trouble, though he does need to be very, very quick about it. He is continuing to swing at the Branch Wraith, and it looks like Wulfric decides, hey, you know what, I don't need to be here, and decides to skedaddle. We have another ship approaching, and oh, beautiful cast. Absolutely chews through a bunch of these Wood Elf infantry, and it looks like Wulfric is going for maybe a rear charge. It'd be nice if he could see off these Wild Riders, if possible. We have another Spirit Leech coming in on Durthu. I almost wonder if it would be better to spam the Spirit Leeches and stuff on the Branch Wraiths, because the thing about the Branch Wraith is as long as she's alive, there is a possibility of plenty of healing coming in. The balance of power is still fairly even. It looks like it might be a tiny bit in the Wood Elves' favor, but not much. Durthu does fire Lamentation of Despair, which does drop a Fimir dead on the ground. But the Norskins are being careful not to fully commit their entire army, because it looks like they don't want to risk a Flock of Doom or a Sword of Day taking out their entire army. And it looks like they are trying so hard to get rid of this last big unit of Wild Riders. You can see they're very carefully just circling around the main combat, charging in, backing up, charging in, backing up, just trying to find a really good place to settle, and it's starting to work because the balance of power is slowly tipping in the Norskins' favor. However, the Wood Elves do take advantage of the situation to get a nice charge in on these Fimir to make sure they are going to leave and stay gone. But here, these Eternal Guard, who were just broken, have now been shattered by the Horsemen. And in my opinion, this battle really comes down to, can the Wild Riders stay alive? Because if the Wild Riders can keep fighting and stay alive, then the Wood Elves have the ability to keep running off Norscan units that break. And if they have the ability to do that, then they can slowly but surely continue to whittle the Wood Elf army down. However, the Horsemasters do get a big charge in, and a rear charge does come in from the Fimir. The Wild Riders are no longer immune to psychology, so the fear caused by the Fimir does cause one of them to break despite the Earthblood. The other one is managing to hold on at 0, 6, 15. Oh, they managed to slip out of there before they break. The Marauder Horsemasters do break, but this unit of Eternal Guard is gone because this unit of Horsemasters is going to make absolutely sure to escort them completely off the battlefield. We see the Fimir here continue the break, but the Fimir keep rallying despite their low health. And here the Wild Riders get countercharged again. They've got about 800 health, but Wolfric is running in alongside to try and make sure they get off the table. There is still a very healthy unit of Eternal Guard who are very critical to the defense of Norsca and are what is keeping them, or the Wood Elves, and is what keeping them in the game right now. Because every time those Eternal Guard get charged by the Norskins, the Azrai immediately respond and are doing an excellent job of making sure that every Wild Rider that dies takes at least an entire unit with them. We see here that these guys are broken, but there's nobody left to chase them because these Horsemasters have shattered. They are off the field. Oh no, they're just rallying. Or yeah, they're shattered. So there's no more Horsemasters left. He needs to get those Chaos Warhounds over here, these Norscan Warhounds, because as long as these Wild Riders are still on the field, I think the Wood Elves are going to win this, in my opinion. Here we do see the Sorcerer Shaman is trying to do little tags and do little bits of damage, but that's it. This is all Norsca has left, is these characters. And it feels very confident to me that the Wood Elves are going to win this. There's just nothing left on the Norscan line. The Wood Elves did a flawless execution of making sure that every time Norsca was baited into coming after those, every time the Wood Elves or the Norskins were baited into coming after the Wild Riders, that the Spear Elves immediately responded. The Wood Elves kept their army really nice and tight, and thanks to the fact that they have such high movement speed, they were able to immediately respond every single time the Norskins tried to commit to an attack, and were able to take them down. So Felcon, if I am correct in my memory, Felcon has claimed victory for the 3rd week in a row with completely different armies every time. He won 2 weeks ago with his high elf, or 2 weeks ago with his what was it 2 weeks ago? I don't remember what faction it was, but he won last week with his High Elves, this week with his Wood Elves, and 2 weeks ago he won with Lizardmen. That's right. So Felcon has a very, very noted winning streak in this tournament. He has won over 50% of our games. So really well played to Taco. That was a very close game. I thought for sure Norsca was actually going to be able to turn it around because they were doing a really good job of seeing off the Wood Elves. But then the Wood Elves managed to get to the point where Durthu was too strong for the Norskins to just commit against him. Whereas we had the Wild Riders very carefully luring in the Norskins, and the Wild Riders just would not break. So Felcon in future weeks is the man to beat when he is participating. He is clearly someone that if you're wanting to win these tournaments, you're going to need to try and figure out how he's really good at guessing the meta, or at least doing really well on my randomizer and getting armies that he's able to take down. Really, really great game, though. So that's going to be it for today, guys. I hope you all appreciated the tournament. If you did, please consider hitting the like button on your way out. It really helps me out and helps YouTube recommend this tournament as a video to other people who are farting around on YouTube watching other people's stuff. So maybe we can have more and more people and maybe get noticed by Senpai CA. But in any event, I hope you all have a great day. That's going to be it for me for now. So I'm going to go take care of some stuff. And thank you all for watching. We will be back next Friday at 2:30 Central Standard Time. And we'll have to see what armies and players we'll have next week. Maybe some new faces, maybe some old ones. We'll have to see. So in any event, thanks again so much for watching. Love you all. Appreciate it. See you next time. I guess we'll run some outro music, because why not, right? Man, my nose is super stuffed up all of a sudden. Ugh. Alright guys, have a good one.